But it's not about protecting these individuals. It's about controlling society. It's about not having to expand beyond your heteronormative, gender binary worldview. And it's really, really effing sad. Hello, and welcome to Embodying Mystical Mac. I'm Mac, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. If you'd like to go ahead and see my beautiful face because you're listening on the podcast, you can hop over to YouTube, by the way. You can always do that. All of these podcast episodes go to YouTube. Today we have a kind of grim rant video that I really wish I wasn't making because, one, I just have a feeling it might get demonetized, which is not fun when, you're trying to make content creation your job. And oftentimes it feels like talking about issues that I'm very passionate about. I end up having to use special language, to dissuade the algorithm from realizing what I'm actually talking about, even though in the guidelines it says that you can talk about something as long as, even if they're hard things to talk about, some of the words that they censor you for, you're supposed to be able to talk about them as long as you're talking about them in a productive way. But I guess if you disapprove of something, it's automatically not a productive way. I don't know. It's really, really unfortunate. So yeah, that's part of the reason. But it's not the big part of the reason. The majority of the reason that I really don't want to be making this video is because the thing that I'm talking about is happening, period. And yeah, if you don't know, the anti-trans sentiment is really, really strong in the US right now. It's really, really strong within our government. Last year, we had a record number of anti-LGBTQIA+ bills introduced. And yeah, it's really grim. I'm bisexual. I'm part of the queer community. Even if I wasn't, even when I didn't know that I was bisexual, I never understood the desire to strip people's rights away, especially under the guise of protecting people. Like that kind of thing maybe could fly in the age where we didn't have evidence-based science and real life studies to show that these bills are harmful, like on a mental health and fatal level for the people that they are attacking. But that's the thing, right? Like it's interesting. I'm working on a fundamentalist religion video, and so many of the people pushing this anti-gay rhetoric and anti-trans, all of it, anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric, and trying to get these bills passed that subjugate us and take our rights away. Never mind the fact that we already don't feel super comfortable being ourselves everywhere in this world, much less everywhere at least in the country I live in. But then you have to go a step further and want to take rights away, Like I never ever understood that. And going back to my point, what's really interesting is that these people pushing these bills and these policies are usually very predominantly religious. And if they're not, and it's just bigotry and a lack of open-mindedness and a lack of a desire to grow and expand beyond what you know, I mean, that's not any better. Like, I just heard this saying recently. I don't think it's relevant here. It'll be relevant in the other video. But basically, whether you're, taking people's rights away, or blocking their access, because in this case, if you didn't know, in Missouri, a bill was passed that will block not just trans children, which I'll get into my view on, gender-affirming care for trans kids and things like that, but not just for trans kids, but trans adults. It would block gender-affirming care for them. And this kind of care that this bill is blocking, it is care that on paper and evidence-based studies has shown to reduce unaliving ideation, to better their quality of life, all of the good effects that it can have. It's shown to have, whereas without these services, the unaliving ideation goes up, where it's already far too high, but it goes up. The lack of feeling seen, supported, heard gets to you in such a way that people that have never experienced what it is to be othered by society, we just won't know. Like, I have ways in which I am othered by society, but I can't say that that's been my predominant life experience. And when you are a trans person, or even a gay person in the wrong place, that is your life experience. And to have that be your life experience and have your rights consistently be under attack, have things that are life-saving be made inaccessible to you. It's cruel. It's cruel, it's not right, and the only justification is bigotry and discrimination. There was some sort of block on the bill because it was passed, but then it was blocked up until May 15th. I don't know what trans people in Missouri will do. Now, to get into my view about the gender-affirming care for kids, to be clear, typically anything done for trans youth are things that are reversible. And not like under the knife reversible, like they stop taking hormone blockers, their hormones will regulate themselves back to what they were before, right? Those kinds of things. So the people trying to attack these things, it's not about protecting anybody. I mean, if it was, they would look at the studies and go, okay, well, regardless of my belief, these services are clearly protecting these people's mental health. And I know that because the opposite is telling, right? Without the gender-affirming care, the unaliving ideation, i.e. mental health issues, goes up. So it can only mean that the opposite side of that means that these services available, it goes down. But it's not about protecting these individuals. It's about controlling society. It's about not having to expand beyond your heteronormative, gender binary worldview. And it's really, really effing sad. And I really just don't have a lot to say. Like, I really just don't have a lot to say other than I'm just heartbroken. Like, I really am. Oh yeah, see, I'm everywhere, because this is so infuriating and sad. The gender-affirming care for kids, it's reversible stuff, and regardless, these are decisions that are not should not be subjugated to the government. Just like a pregnant person should not have the government deciding what they are to do with their bodies. Nobody should have the government deciding what they are to do with their bodies. That includes pregnant people, that includes trans kids and trans adults, and anybody. It's just ludicrous. And it's infuriating, because when your mind is that small and your worldview is that tiny and that privileged and just that blind, you don't have the capacity to see beyond you. You don't have the capacity to see that your version of protecting people, quote, quote, is actually severely hurting them. But it doesn't matter, because it's not about protecting people. It's about protecting yourself and your worldview. I've linked below a couple of organizations that are local to Missouri, that help out locally in Missouri for trans kids and people, as well as just the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm also going to try to link at least a couple of research sources, because I know I talked about how gender-affirming care is really great and it's been shown in research, so I'll try to add a couple of resources down, if not one, if not two, then at least one. And there's more where that came from. So if you're interested in opening up your mind, if you're interested in maybe changing your views a little bit, on the queer community, I commend you. I thank you for wanting to do that. If you're someone who has already done that or never really needed to do that, and you're just as upset and sad as I am, your feelings are valid. This fucking sucks. Really fucking sucks. Like, I've gotten to a point where I really don't want to raise a family in this country. And it saddens me, because it means I will be, raising a family in a totally different place. And while that has like beautiful outcomes and beautiful effects, I would love to be able to raise my kids in the place where I've built my community, instead of having my pre-existing community having to go elsewhere. But that's the place where my children won't be target practice. That's the place where, wherever we decide to go, where I don't have to explain why gay people aren't allowed to be themselves in public. It's a place that hopefully we will have universal health care. I grew up in Brazil up until I was 9, and the idolization of the United States that happens there. And we just don't deserve it. Not even close. America is incredible at marketing itself really well, but it is not nearly as advanced as it likes to think it is. We've definitely failed the spirit of America, of the US. This place where it's just a melting pot of different people and everyone's welcome and everyone can, make their own way. And I know I'm not naive. It's not like that narrative was ever, pure. And I mean, when I say pure, I mean it was crafted by someone as well, right? That sort of narrative. But I really do believe the spirit of the United States is a beautiful one. That idea of a melting pot where people have freedom of speech and equal rights to the pursuit of happiness and, all of that good stuff that was reserved for white cis men back in the day, and we're slowly but surely, painfully widening the net. Painfully. But to quote what got gay rights legalized here in the US, love wins. Love is love. Love is love. And love wins. And the queer community has persevered because, one, we're not going to stop existing. All right? The things that you see present in the queer community, in humanity, is present in the animal kingdom. We are not the only ones. So if we're not gonna, versions of us aren't gonna stop existing in the animal kingdom, guess what? Humans are part of the animal kingdom. We're not going to stop existing in humanity. And we're more visible than ever. And even if there isn't, this widespread acceptance, it's a lot more widespread than it used to be, to the point where we can actively fight for rights, where I can hang that up and people know what it means. Maybe not everybody, probably not everybody, like most straight people who are not in the queer community probably don't know what it means, but there's probably a really good amount of allies that do know what it means. And I shouldn't say most straight people who don't consider themselves to be allies, but there are a lot of allies who would know what it means, and a lot of out queer people who will know what it means, and a lot of not out queer people who will know what it means and feel excited that it's getting advertised, because back in the day, I mean, I don't know when the flags were developed per se, but back in the day it was dropping hairpins and having, roommates and lifelong best friends. And I know, if you're not familiar with queer history and stuff like that, all of that just sounded really like normal things to you, but that's the point. That is the point. Having to hide in plain sight. We don't have to hide anymore, so that is a step up. But damn, it is a painful fucking climb. I'm gonna close out with this. I saw a video of a child advocating for themselves in Canada. They were not a transgender, non-binary child. I'm not gonna explain that, by the way. Doesn't matter. You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept it and not be a dick about it. They were 10. And do you know what they said? They were like, at what point do I stop being someone you're trying to protect and become a threat? They were 10. It doesn't affect you. The people who are trying to control these people's lives, it doesn't affect you. And if you're trying to pass these horrible policies and these horrible bills because you're trying to keep, your own family from being, quote, affected by, quote, transgenderism, quote, or whatever, the gay agenda, quote, like, you're just gonna be the dickhole. I'm gonna tell you that now. You're the dickhole. You're the one who is going to be the shitty one in this situation, because it's not going to stop your family member from expressing a part of their identity that they cannot control. It's just going to make you look like you're not a trusted person. But what's really sad is that these narrow-minded worldviews typically don't allow for deep connections, because they will stick to that worldview before accepting their own children. There was actually a government official in the US whose son is non-binary, and pleaded with him to not push forward these bills. Dad did so anyway. So, there you have it. Whatever discussions you have in the comment section, please be kind. If you're not, you're blocked. If you're bigoted, you're blocked. If you're phobic, you're blocked. I don't care. We protect everyone here, especially the most marginalized and attacked group in the world right now. I have no words. I just have anger and sadness and a glimmer of hope, because you know what? When these things are making waves and really pushing towards great things, towards a better future, the most vocal resistance will rise up. But love is love, and love will win. Protect trans kids. Protect trans people. Be a kind human. Be willing to deconstruct your black and white thinking. Be willing to explore different perspectives that aren't your own. If you can, travel. Travel to different places and seek to learn. While you learn about other people's differences, you will realize that we are all so much more alike than we care to realize, which is why we all deserve the same rights. Thank you so much for making it through this video. That's what I've got for you. So if you haven't already, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and please click the bell button, because I do post regularly, but I don't post on a schedule. If you'd like to financially support the channel, you can check out my affiliates below. They're Natural Shilajit and It Just Works Deodorant. And you could also book a tarot reading if you're interested in that. Just email me, embodymysticalmac@gmail.com. It's on the description below. Lastly, if none of that interests you, you can just shoot me a Venmo while I don't have a Patreon, and while I'm still working on making this channel my job, content creation my job. The donations are really, really appreciated. So thank you very much if you've done that. It's really, really helpful. Lastly, if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can find me at embodymysticalmac on Instagram as well as on TikTok. And you can find my music account at Mac and the Music on Instagram. I suppose I should make a TikTok for that. Anyhow, thank you so much. Stay mystical, stay grounded, and hopefully the US will start to go further away from backwards. Yeah. Okay.